Welcome to Unapologetically Me, the show in which I discuss topics revolving around religion and secularism through the lens of my personal experience. I am Laura, and I am unapologetically me. Okay, so if you watched my latest video, you know that I enjoy Christmas. Truthfully, that is an understatement. I love Christmas. My love for the pagan Christian secular holiday might not quite reach the devotional enthusiasm and intensity of Buddy the Elf, but my celebration of Christmas starts immediately after Thanksgiving and lasts the better part of the month of December. Christmas music, Christmas decorations, cookies, gift making, the checking out of other people's Christmas lights. Man, there is more than enough to keep my holiday spirits flying high all month long. But that's not even what I'm here to talk about today. Today, I'm going to take you on an adventure through history with me, where I explore where in the HE double hockey sticks all of my Christmas traditions came from. In other words, let's talk Christmas myths. First, let's start with the one thing I'm pretty sure everyone knows about Christmas, or thinks they know, or whatever. Christmas is the celebration of the sweet little baby Jesus. Now, it would be really silly to say that's false because, seriously, that's what Christians are celebrating on December 25th. No lie. So if they say Christmas is Happy Birthday Jesus, then we cannot deny that the Christian holiday is in celebration of the birth of their Savior. But is December 25th actually the day of birth of that sweet little baby God? This is a pretty contested claim that is most easily solved without argument when Christians say that they know it's not Jesus' real birthday, it's just the day on which his birth is celebrated. You know, kind of like, my kid's birthday's on a Tuesday, but we're not going to celebrate it until the following Saturday. I mean, that's not too unreasonable if you think about it. So according to Bruce Forbes in his book Christmas, A Candid History, quote, with a variety of arguments to support their views, assorted Christians in the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th centuries argued for March 25th and 28th, April 19th and 20th, May 20th, and November 18th as the birth date. If we ask about the specific day on which Jesus was born, the honest answer is that we simply do not know. End quote. But there are those who claim it is his actual birthday, and it is very clearly presented as such in carols. Oh, holy night, the stars are brightly shining. It is the night of our dear Savior's birth. And stories like the Nativity Story. Interestingly, the Britannica Online briefly mentions that some people did calculate Jesus' conception as having been the spring equinox in March, and therefore making his birth 9 months later, yep, December 25th. But that sounds super tenuous. It really has that typical mythological use of the equinoxes and solstices, cultural tropey feel to it. You know what I mean. It is largely acknowledged, however, that Jesus' actual birthday, if he existed as a historical figure, was not December 25th. The celebration of the birth of Jesus on December 25th specifically is often seen as more of a hostile takeover of the Roman celebration of Saturnalia or the Northern European celebration of Yule. Okay, perhaps hostile takeover is a bit harsh or dramatic. But historical accounts show that there was very likely cultural diffusion of these celebrations into the Christians' observations of the season. Saturnalia, celebrated in Rome, and Yule, celebrated in Scandinavia, were both winter celebrations involving eating and drinking and the use of lights, and, at least in Scandinavia, included the use of tree branches for decorations. Also important to note is that early celebrations of Christmas were nothing like what we know them today, and have been contested by various Christian people and groups since its inception. Nevertheless, tons of Christian people today currently celebrate it, and so it would be kind of silly to argue that Christmas doesn't have a very specific significance to them. So, Christians, your predecessors developed Christmas with some strong pagan influences. And non-Christians, the holiday is also still legitimately Christian. I don't want to spend a lot of time on this because, well, there's a shit ton of really good resources out there on the ties between how Christians celebrate the birth of Jesus and previously practiced pagan traditions. I'll link some of the videos as well as Forbes books in the episode details. I encourage you to check them out or do some digging of your own. If you find anything interesting, please add it to the comments below. Okie dokie. Having gotten the big one out of the way, let's look at some smaller but less overly discussed in media and on YouTube Christmas traditions. First, Santa. No, wait, no, he's pretty well overdone too. So, really quick, let's shoot out some fun facts about him that I'm pretty sure you already know and get into some that you might not. 1. Santa Claus is based on Saint Nicholas, a 4th century Turkish dude with a propensity to give gifts to kids. You know, jolly old Saint Nicholas, lean your ear this way. 2. He got the characteristics that we know of him today from a poem, A Visit from St. Nicholas, in 1823, which you may know as 'Twas the Night Before Christmas. 3. He got his dashing good looks from cartoonist Thomas Nast 40 years later, inspired by said poem. 4. He was further popularized in 1931 thanks to none other than Coca-Cola, which just goes to show what good marketing can do. Their artist, Hayden Sundblom, gave him that modern-day warm, jolly, rosy-cheeked look that we still know and love today. But here's some stuff you might not know. Early Christian traditions celebrated jolly old St. Nick at many different times, often in early December, but definitely not associated with Christmas. Originally, the feast day of St. Nicholas was December 6th, which marked his death day, which was common for celebrating saints. According to tradition in the Netherlands, he rides over rooftops on a white horse, dropping gifts into wooden shoes that kids leave either outside or by their fireplace. Do you recognize anything about this story? I even listened to a podcast that discussed the history of Krampus and how it relates to the story of Santa. Freaky shit. It is in the description below, and you should totally check it out. Sinterklaas, which is basically the Dutch nickname of St. Nicholas, was introduced to America by Dutch immigrants in the late 1700s. They also brought with them the popular iconography of stockings hung over the fireplace, as well as the decoration of fruits around the fireplace that later inspired ornaments. Pretty cool, huh? Okay, so I've covered the two big dudes on the Christmas scene, Jesus and Santa. Check, check. But what about Santa's reindeer? Why reindeer? And why the North Pole? There's a lot of iconography going on here, which is pretty cool. In Norwegian stories, for example, he's being pulled by a white horse. In Norse mythology, Odin is also featured as being pulled through the winter skies during his wild hunt by a team of frothing black horses. And there's also a story of Thor being pulled through the skies by two goats, Nasher and Cracker. They sound like awesome goats. In Sweden, Santa was pulled by a goat as well, so there is a bit of overlap there. And in Finland, he's pulled by a buck. Reindeer really don't show up as pullers of the magical sleigh until around 1821, when the story of Santa being pulled by reindeer was published by the New York Press. But why the North Pole? The North Pole was also an editorial addition to the Jolly Man's background story when Nast published his drawings back in 1886. Okay, let's talk Christmas trees and wreaths. I know. Because I'm an atheist, you think I'm going to sit here and rant about the pagan roots behind the practices of bringing trees or branches of trees into the house, and how Christians should acknowledge the hypocrisy of the use of pagan traditions and customs while simultaneously condemning such actions in others. And you would be wrong. The roots of the pagan Christmas tree bothered me when I was a Christian, and especially when I was a Muslim. But now, I just find them interesting. I'm no longer bothered by borrowed traditions or iconography, because if it's one thing I've learned about humans while studying anthropology, it's that we love to, at best, share and borrow traditions, practices, beliefs, food, music, and just about every other facet of human civilization with each other. In other words, who cares? You're human. You put up that Christmas tree and enjoy your observances in whatever way makes you feel warm and fuzzy. But that doesn't mean that I'm not going to talk about the pagan roots of the beloved evergreen. Knowing where my traditions come from brings me a sense of wonder, and knowing that we can all enjoy a tradition together, even as we argue over whose tradition it really is, helps me feel oddly connected. Prior to the inclusion of the pine tree in Christmas celebrations, ancient cultures all over the place were decorating their winter homes with plant life. Egyptians, Celts, and Vikings all practiced winter traditions of decorating their homes with cut tree boughs, although in Egypt they used palm rushes. The evergreens often signified the persistence of life through the cold winter and the rebirth of their patron gods. Egypt had Ra, Scandinavia had Balder, Rome had Saturn. This theme of the birth or rebirth of a god, actually, it kind of makes the Nativity story feel overdone, cliche, in keeping with the mythology of the time. I don't know. At any rate, the practice was incorporated into Christian tradition in the 16th century in Germany, but it didn't even make its way over to the United States until Germans brought the tradition over in the 19th century. Oh, and by the way, we Americans weren't instantly stoked about it either, as there were many Protestant protests against the pagan practices being incorporated into Christmas. I am very thankful to report, however, that cultural popularity slowly won out over religious sensitivities, and I now get to enjoy my very real, but unfortunately not real, Christmas tree. Originally, trees were decorated with fruit and cookies. I mean, I wouldn't mind a cookie or two on my tree, but I guess with 5 kids and 3 dogs, yeah, I guess I'll stick with ornaments. Wreaths also have a strong connection to the celebration of Yule, in which it would signify nature and the cycle of the seasons. They would put candles inside their wreath to signify warmth and sunlight, kind of like bringing a little bit of summer into the house during the depths of winter. The symbolism later assigned to the wreath by Christians falls on a more cosmic scale, everlasting life and the unending love of God. So, the last thing I want to touch on is my own family tradition, cookie baking. As a child, I remember a time in the kitchen with my mom whipping up a variety of Christmas cookies and treats. Some classics from my childhood include ginger snaps, ugh, which I hated even the smell of, your classic sugar cookie, magic cookie bars, and Fuddymins. Wait, what was that? Fuddymins. Huh? Fuddymins. I am sure I am pronouncing it completely wrong, but that's what my family calls it. Anyway, it's a Norwegian fried cookie that looks a little bit like a bow tie, and it is well worth the time and energy that goes into making it. So as an adult, I began my own family tradition, a holiday baking party. Every year, I invite over friends and family, filling my house with adults and children and the smell of baked goods. Okay, so this year, the year of the COVID Christmas, we didn't do a party, which really, really sucks. But we still made tons of cookies. We even took safety precautions so that we could give them out to friends and family. I suppose you could say this particular tradition has its roots in every little bit of the cultural practices of feasting during this cold, dark time of year. After all, nothing warms the cockles of your heart like a freshly fried Norwegian cookie. Except maybe spiked hot cocoa. So this holiday tradition is one that I really hope to continue once the kids are grown, and I would be thrilled if it imprints on even just one of them. If it is one thing that I've learned over the years, it is that regardless of your feelings about the holiday, Christmas extends well beyond the Christian narrative of the Nativity and beyond the pagan traditions upon which it was built. It is also way more than just secular consumerism riding the wave of holiday platitudes and Santa iconography. It is a cultural and social phenomenon that is constantly changed through the introduction of new traditions like songs, movies, decorations. Not everyone is stoked about how mainstream Christmas is, and so I know it can feel really intrusive because in some cases it is. But it has snowballed through cultures worldwide and picked up momentum that is really difficult to ignore. So, in my opinion, you are welcome to hate it, and you are welcome to love it. But either way, thank you for spending some time with me to better understand it. This video has barely touched the tip of the iceberg that is the history of Christmas. So I added a ton of helpful links below, but honestly, there's so much out there. So if I didn't discuss the Yule enough, or if I didn't get in depth enough about the popularity of celebrating dying and rising gods, I encourage you to go out and learn more. As for me and my house, well, we just finished learning about Hanukkah over the previous 8 days. And today we finished reading the first chapter of Christmas, A Candid History by Bruce David Forbes to enrich our own knowledge on the topic. So please post your resources for the history of Christmas or the various Christmas tropes in the comment section below. If they're good, I'll add them in the description section for this video. If you haven't already hit like and subscribe, please do so now. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye! After all, nothing warms the cockles of your heart. No. After all, nothing warms the cockles of your heart. Blah. After all, nothing warms the cockles of your heart like freshly fried. No, 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 no.